Hey, what's good, y'all? It's Lucky here. We're gonna go outside for a little walk and talk about a watch I can't quite define, the Yema Urban Traveler. I kind of wanted to talk about why I purchased this watch, because this was not only a big deal for me financially, but it was also a big deal from where I was in my life. So I purchased this watch in June of 2024, and I wanted to commemorate a few things. This was shortly after I had moved back to New York from living in Los Angeles. My 32nd birthday had just passed, and I had a research analyst job at Meta. I had finished my year contract, and they had extended me. I felt really appreciated. I was making some pretty good money, and I had just gone through a bunch of life changes. So I'm like, you know what? Let me get a watch. The two biggest factors were looks and price. Now, I think you should like what you're wearing, so I think I put looks above everything when it comes to watches. So I feel like it's first, it's got to be the look, second, it's got to be the price, and then third, I'll care about the specs of the movement and all the other stuff. But at the time, I was still just figuring out what was good and bad about the watch world. So around this time, there was like quite a few integrated bracelet watches being released, all watches that were around anywhere between $300 and $1,000. My budget was somewhere between $500 and $900, but you know, still wanted to see what else was out there. We had the Christopher Ward 12 and the Tissot PRX. Also, I think there was something called the Nevada F77. Honorable mention to the Ciosa by Citizen. It's not a watch that I find that attractive. I understand why people like it. I'm sure it's a fine watch. It does look pretty cool. Just from looking at it, I didn't think it was me. So my reason for not picking the PRX or the 12 are kind of on a similar track. With the PRX, I felt like the 35mm was too small, even with the extended lugs, and then I couldn't get a great fit. There's no room for like a micro adjust, which is going to come back to play later. And then the 40mm with the extended lugs from the integrated bracelet made it feel bigger than what it actually was. This is similar with the Christopher Ward, though I think the Christopher Ward 12 has a micro adjust. The 40mm was just too big for me, and at the time didn't have the 37. And the 36 I kind of assumed was going to be small. Also, the Christopher Ward 12 was over $1,000. It's like slightly out of my budget. So one thing I did love about the Yema is the case size. I thought it was perfect because I knew with the lugs being extended out a little bit that it'll fit nice on my wrist, which it does. And I knew the integrated bracelet was going to be comfortable. I had owned the PRX for a little bit, a quartz version 35mm, and I also owned this watch called a Lucien Picard, and it had an integrated style bracelet as well. Having owned those two watches, I knew I was going to like the integrated bracelet. I knew it was going to be comfortable, and I knew the 38mm size was going to be perfect because extended out, it might fit like a 39 or a 40, and that is a good size for my wrist. I have about like a 7¼ inch wrist, or maybe 7½. So knowing all that, I felt confident that if I bought this watch, it was going to fit nicely. So looks and bracelet aside, a third reason was the price. On Yema's website, this watch was retailing for about $890. I went on Chrono24 and bought it used for about $739. With taxes and import fees, it came like right under $800. About, you know, $100 off. Let's go for it. So I'm gonna head back inside for a little while, and I'll break down the pros, the cons, and the dimensions of this watch.
Yeah, I'm a little hungry, so before I talk about the pros and the cons, I'm gonna eat this pizza real quick.
Okay, so now that I have a full stomach, I am back to talk about the pros, the cons, and I guess the neutrals about this watch. And since Yema has now discontinued this watch, it's hard to get the information from their website. So the internet is telling me that this is 39 to 39.2, and even though this is slightly smaller than some of the other integrated watches that I mentioned, this looks best on my wrist because the case size with the lugs, it wears a little bigger than what it says. Lug width, 24mm. The lug to lug is 43.5mm, but once again, you have to consider the case size, which leaves it at like a 48mm. Once again, you have the lug here, but it's extended due to the integrated bracelet. Thickness is 11.5mm. Pro number one, this watch looks so good. Understand it's inspired by like old Gerald Genta designs and the AP, and takes influences from a lot of old sports watches. Yema themselves had a sports watch in the 70s that was similar to this, so I get all that. I don't care. This thing is awesome. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it when I wear it out in public. The bracelet looks cool. The honeycomb dial with all that texture, the case, right? And like how like this is like a 30 millimeter dial that's inside a bigger dial that's inside like a octagon case. This thing looks cool. It's not like your traditional round watch with indices and or Arabic numbers, right? So it's a little different. And I think this watch just has a unique look to it. Which brings me into the second pro, is the feel of the bracelet. This doesn't tug at my hairs. Feels good on the wrist. That's it. Third is the crown. I like a fat, juicy crown. I like a big crown on my watches. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 230 pounds. I'm a big dude. I have pretty good sized hands. And on some of my other watches, the crown is just really tiny to work. So this, like, I'm able just to wind it really easily, set it easily, pull it really easily. And so I like the fact that this is a big crown. Third, the sapphire crystal on this is slightly raised. Slightly raised. And lastly, the feeling. I bought this watch because I wanted to celebrate being appreciated at my job, being another year older, moving back home. This gives me like a feeling of, yeah, I'm the man, I'm a pimp, I got this cool watch. This watch comes in some pretty cool colors, but I like this white dial because it kind of blends in with the bracelet, giving like a monochrome-ish kind of look. So those are the pros. Now, I have a good amount of, believe it or not, like even though I speak highly of this watch, I do have a lot of cons. So I wrote them down. I'm gonna read them out to you, okay? The lack of taper. You can tell that this watch does have a pretty good taper, but then the bracelet just kind of like stays chunky as you get towards the clasp. It makes the watch freaking heavy. I think this thing is like 165 grams or something like that. So I'm not a big fan of the lack of taper because then it leads to an increased amount of weight on the watch. And I don't like that. I don't like having a big heavy watch. Number two, it's not a screw down crown. That's one feature I noticed I've really kind of enjoyed. I enjoy that so much about my Orient, is that the fact that it has a screw down crown, but it also has a small crown, which I dislike, right? But I just want to be able to like know if I forget to take my watch off or something and I go in the pool or whatever it is, that this watch is not going to have water sneak in there. So it has a push-pull crown, but it also has a fat crown that's in between crown guards. So there's a safety measure there. It does say it has water resistance of 100 meters. I'm not going to test it because I don't want to mess up my watch potentially. But I like having the screw down crown, that extra feeling of like, hey, this thing is sealed shut. I like the butterfly clasp, but there's no micro adjust. And it's mostly a problem when my wrist swells in the summer after a workout, or if it's just like a really hot day, my wrist is a little swollen. This watch won't fit. I like that this watch fits me almost perfectly, but it's also a con because there's no micro adjust. And then my last con is Yema themselves. I've heard things about like the quality control and the customer service. I feel like Yema over the years has beat those allegations. Their customer service, they're reachable. They answer emails. They answer the little chat things, right? But I don't like what they did with this watch. This watch ran from 2023 to 2025. And I guess they discontinued it. It just disappeared off the internet. Like, I can't find any information about Yema just being like, hey guys, we're going to discontinue this watch. It's been a good run. They just got rid of this thing. I can't find, like, if you Google Yema Urban Traveler and there's like a link to like Yema's site with the Urban Traveler, it just says 404, not available. So I don't like the fact that they just disappeared this watch off the planet. And then they didn't make any aftermarket bracelets. And I don't know places that can make an integrated bracelet that has like this type of, you push this in to get the bracelet out. I don't know a place that's gonna make a bracelet for this. Unless I gotta get it, like I gotta go to Italy or go to France and get it customized. Like, they didn't make any aftermarket parts for this. It seems like they just gave it all the upgrades, so they made it thinner with a new movement, with a screw down crown, all these new features, all these new stuff, and then they upped the price like crazy. So I just don't like Yema's treatment of this watch. I feel like this was a good like entry level, get into the hobby or get into collecting or have part of your one watch collection, or to feel good, feel like you got something expensive for the low, and they've completely ruined that feeling. So my last con is Yema themselves. Do better. This would have been awesome if I could just have like a leather or like a rubber strap to go with this and just get like a different kind of look. Oh man, that would have been perfect. So Yema, you got to do better. Something that is neutral about this is the movement. When brands say they have an in-house movement, it doesn't necessarily mean all the parts are made in-house. It just means that they have to have a certain amount of parts made in-house for an in-house movement to be. So my theory with this watch and the movement inside of it, it says the Yema 2000, which I can't find any more information on their website because they got rid of it, is that I think this is just like a souped up Miyota 929. I really think that's what this is. Attach some parts or put some parts that they liked, that they wanted, that they manufactured inside a Miyota 929, souped it up, regulated it, and sold it as is, which I don't really mind, because it does say on the website that this runs, I think, anywhere between plus and minus 7 to 10 seconds. Right now, this is currently running, I think, at like minus like 10 seconds a day. So it's doing what it says it does. And usually watches with Miyota movements, if you look at like a Traxa or a Laurier, they're selling their watches anywhere between like $500 to $700. $900 for a watch like this is a little steep. I paid, like I said, around $800 for this. So I don't mind, just because the build quality of this watch is so freaking good. One last neutral for me is I don't know what kind of watch this is. And I know watch enthusiasts are gonna hop into my comments. People are gonna be like, what do you mean? Yes, this is an integrated sports watch. And it has a lot of pluses and it has a lot of limitations at the same time. This watch is, hey, I'm going out on a Friday night and I wanna feel like a pimp. But like, I don't think I'll wear this in the water. I don't think I would wear this as like my day-to-day watch. You know what I mean? But it's called like the Urban Traveler. So I do live in New York City. So should I wear this while I'm traveling to the city, doing like my daily stuff? Or do I wear it when I'm going out in the city, doing like stuff at night, like hanging out with friends, going to dinner? And there's no additional straps, so like it's not really a dress watch. It does have 100-meter water resistance, but like not a screw down crown and no micro adjustments. So I don't know if this is like a daily beater. That's just like a neutral for me. Is I don't know where to categorize this watch. And I think that's why I struggle. Because I've had this watch for a year. And sometimes like I think about selling it because I don't wear it as much as I'd like to. But then when I do wear it, I'm like, that's why I have this. Ultimately, I think this is why this is watch number 3 in my collection. My everyday watch is the Orient Ray 2. And then another one is my Casio, which has a similar design to this with the octagonal kind of case. And I use this as like my Friday night going out watch, my Saturday night hanging out with friends. I'm going to a nice dinner. I'm going to a concert or something. Like I'll wear this. And I think it's okay for this to fulfill that purpose. I just wish it was a little bit more versatile. So these are these are my thoughts on the Yema Urban Traveler. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you. Do you have a watch? Do you think I'm crazy? Leave a thought down below, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.